Hello, welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Football Malpractice, brought to you by Razball. It's Razball, and I am Donkey Teeth, joined as always by the Boof. Still trying to shake the name the Boof. I don't know why. You can call him the Boof, and that's it. And we're also here with my co-host from the Razball Fantasy Football podcast, Beadon, finally getting him on the film. Get to see what he looks like in his beautiful Mike Ditka Bears hat. What's happening down there in Atlanta, Beadon?
Not much, man. I am just full mock draft mode right now, trying to remember what fantasy baseball was like. Just trying to review my teams. I'm actually in the middle of a mock right now with Scott White, some of that CBS crew, Stan Son from Give Razball another little boost there. We're doing a Scott Fishbowl and a Razball mock as well. Well, those are best balls because we're gambling addicts. We need to put at least some money down on something. So, that's what's going on. It's been a great time, other than the fact that people are just coming down with the virus left and right in baseball already, and we haven't even gotten to like pitchers and catchers reporting.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have
been even imagine what football is going to be like.
Golfers, I think they've already said that a bunch of other golfers and caddies have come down with it. I don't know.
Well, Cam Champ, he broke protocols, so they're not saying it was PGA's fault on Cam Champ. So he was out there partying too much or something.
Just to divert, this wasn't on our show notes, but did anyone listen to the 2 p.m. presser today? What did they say? Are they stopping? Or are they just moving forward?
They're going
golf. I didn't know there was.
They're still playing.
There was the commissioner of golf or whatever they're called. He had a presser today. I didn't know what they said.
Yeah, they're playing this week.
Let's go, baby. It's just the flu. Just kidding. Just kidding. I don't want to trigger anybody. Just kidding.
You might die, but whatever. It's all good. It's going to happen eventually anyway.
What a mess. This whole thing's a mess. But let's talk about football.
Oh, football. That's going to happen. And we have a little bit of news this week. I guess the big news since our last show is Deebo Samuel. He had this Jones fracture. You're a doctor, right, Boof? We're all doctors here, technically. But
technically, I am a doctor of pharmacy. I don't know much about Jones fractures, except I can regurgitate what I see on Dr. Twitter.
And?
I think it's going to be 10 plus weeks, and there's a high chance of recurrence or compensation injury in the foot. It's pretty bad. We're so far out, but, once something like this happens, for me, unless it's a guy I just can't quit for some reason, it's an easy fade. And he's a receiver. We'll talk about that later, but there's so many great options. I wouldn't mess with it. These things linger in the foot. You can't really you can't not use it. You can go in a boot and all that, but once you get back on the feet, you're obviously using it all the time. And I just think there's a high rate of recurrence and or lack of production. Someone said such and such percent chance of 50% lack of production based on some historical data. I don't know how accurate it was.
Beaton, what are your thoughts, and where would Deebo, I know you weren't really in on Deebo before this even, but where would he have to fall for you to take a shot on him? Let's say in like a best ball league.
Yeah, I wasn't really ending up with Deebo anywhere before this. I'd say for me to draft him, he probably has to drop, I don't know, into like the 130s. Like if he gets in the 130, 140, 150 range, at that point, why not go ahead and take that shot? We're talking about guys like Sterling Shepard, who I love but can't stay healthy. Rashad Perriman, who's obviously a big sleeper. Some of the rookies and Preston Williams. So we're not.
Oh yeah.
We're definitely not devoid of talent at that point. But I think that's kind of where you would take him if you were a Deebo person and really wanted to move on him. I think I'm probably towards that 150 more than the 130. Just kind of reviewing those names that we were running off. So I probably won't end up with him. Like I said, I wasn't really on him to begin with. He was going I don't know. I'd seen him go in the 50s. I think his average was in the 60s. The 67, I think, was his average
Sounds right.
pre-injury. So that's a lot of draft capital for me to go spending on a pass heavy, or sorry, a run heavy offense that we've definitely seen wide receivers come in and out of. I love Deebo's talent. I think he's a great talent, but betting on that pick with the amount of targets he's probably going to get, Kittle taking a ton of them, I'm just not. I just wasn't in on that.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. There's just no need to take that risk. And we will get into it as we talk about some Scott Fishbowl and Raz Bowl mock drafts and our stance overall that Boof mentioned on wide receivers. But there is a lot of them. And, that's kind of when we discussed holdouts with Dalvin Cook, it's, why take the risk this far out? Maybe it's fine. He'll probably end up playing, but there's so many other good running backs. I guess if they fall, you take a shot. But I'm with you guys. Other piece of news to discuss here, though. Maybe it's news, maybe it's not. I don't know. Mecole Hardman, though, in Kansas City, it sounds like they're going to bring in somebody else to be the return man so that Hardman can get more snaps on offense. I don't know. I didn't really realize that was an issue, that return men are getting less snaps because they're returning. Boof.
Yeah, they shouldn't. It shouldn't preclude you from running plays on offense. I suppose the idea is injury risk and wanting to put him in bubble wrap until he's playing receiver. I think it's a little bit of smoke. I think it's interesting to talk about. Maybe I would pull the trigger a little sooner on Hardman. I'm a little out on Hardman anyway. Yeah, I think we're projecting way too much on him. He was super efficient, but you need volume and efficiency. So, I don't see the volume for him just yet. I think we're assuming a lot, but even if 10 more snaps or something like that on offense, 2 more targets, still seems rough to me. So I saw a lot of chatter about it, but if he's a guy own already in Dynasty, I'll hold him. But otherwise, I'm not paying any kind of premium to get him on my team.
Thoughts be done?
Yeah, if we're expecting, obviously this is a great offense, but if we're expecting Kelsey to have an amazing season, Tyreek to have an amazing season, people are projecting all sorts of receptions on the CEH, whether I believe that's feasible or not, it doesn't matter. They're projecting it out for him. I just wonder where he fits into all of that. And then that's the concern with pretty much anybody else. There's still Demarcus Robinson there. He can definitely run the deep route just like Mecole, however you say it, can. So I think there's still a little bit more competition for even those third, fourth wide receiver targets than we're kind of giving credit for here. He's super fast, but it's not like he's a polished route runner. His hands are, average, maybe slightly above that if we really want to kind of stretch it. But I think what Booth said is right. I think people are projecting a little bit too much onto him to have him going in like the 110 range right now.
He's going, I was going to say he's going well ahead of like Deebo now.
Yeah, and you didn't even mention beat on the 2 other guys there. Sammy Watkins is still there, and Byron Pringle. So,
great name.
Yeah. Once you pop, you can't stop.
I love
Byron
it.
Pringle. Yeah, I'm with you guys. I do really like him in best balls, and that at some point we talked best ball strategy, and he's the type of player that I will target and pay a little bit more, because you don't have to guess when he's going to have those big games, and he's going to probably have a 2 touchdown game or 2. I would guess, when he gets that matchup and Tyreek is pulling the coverage away, he can just torch their second corner, But yeah, I think we're all kind of on the same page that it's pricey. He could totally pay off and return top 50 type value. Mahomes could have another 50 touchdown season and he could catch, 12 of them or something crazy like that. So, but there's a lot of wide receivers, and you can wait, like we talked about already, and grab somebody with close to that upside even later. So any other thoughts on news stories? I don't think we had anything else, right, guys?
Pretty slow week.
Yeah, still a slow week. No other players have caught coronavirus other than Zeke, right?
Not that we know of.
Reported.
Good trend happening.
We're trending the right way.
Oh, unless you want to count the other sports.
Yeah, other sports are trending very poorly,
but you know what? NBA, when are they starting? They're doing this whole Orlando thing, and I haven't heard anything about NBA players.
Yeah, going to Florida, what can go wrong there?
Well, that's true.
My buddy told me Nikola Jokic is corona, I believe.
Oh, well, he lost a ton of weight, so that makes sense. Maybe he had like that, losing the flu 15 or whatever.
There you go. Moving on, though, since light news week. So Scott Fishbowl, Booth finally got his invite. They finally stopped cock blocking the Booth. And so we're all in now, and we're starting our prep. We've got B-Don, when's the mock start? Tomorrow?
Well, we're still waiting for one more person. So it starts basically as soon as we get one more person in there. The Scott Fishbowl's been announced, so everybody's already like jumping in mocks and everything. And people who aren't in have no reason to practice. Whereas the Raz Bowl, we can still get fans in there because nobody knows if they're drafting or not yet.
Yeah. We'll keep stringing them along.
I mean,
we will start announcing.
If they're following us and getting in our mocks, they're probably on the good side of the podcast and the Razzball crew.
Yeah, and we will start piecing some leagues together. I think this year we'll do like a slow drip announcement of leagues on Twitter, one at a time, and draw it out because we're gonna leave registration open and see how many analysts we end up with, and then decide how many fans get in. So we'll start maybe next week. I may ask you guys for a little help with that. But with Scott Fishbowl, let's talk a little bit about the scoring and strategy and our draft slots and what's going on here. So Scott Fishbowl, enormous contest. I think there was 1,200 teams last year. I think they're upping it to like 1,400 and something this year. There's always a little bit of tweaks in the format. So scoring for this year, and it's a 22-man roster. It's a super flex league. You got 4 flexes that you start, one of those being the super flex, 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, your regular quarterback. So it's really deep starting lineup. Then you got 11-player bench, and there's fab on top of it. Pretty barren player pool to pick from in the Scott Fishbowl. No defenses and kickers. We love that. Scoring, passing, 6-point touchdowns. There's some bonuses for every 25 passing yards. Well, that's not a bonus, but there's bonuses for first downs for receivers and running backs and all that. There's
you get half a point for a completion. That's kind of the bonus
for quarterbacks, half a point per completion. But there's also minus 1 point per incompletion and minus 1 point per sack, which is a wrinkle, and minus 4 for interception. So kind of a big ding there for your Jameis Winstons. On the running back side, 6-point rushing touchdowns. You get the bonus of a half a point per first down. Receiving, it's a half a point per reception, half a point per first down. Pretty standard scoring other than that. And then tight ends, it's tight end premium. You get a half a point extra. So it's a full point PPR for tight ends and a full point bonus on first downs for tight ends as well. So I think that about covers the scoring, the uniqueness of it. It is pretty similar to last year's, actually, looking at it. I'm not sure what changed. B-Don, do you have any insight into what changed in the scoring from last year?
I think the only thing that changed was sacks for quarterbacks went up a little bit, and I think that was about it, really. I think that was the only big change from last year to this year.
So was it like negative a half last year?
I think so. I don't know if it actually even was a negative last year.
Oh, I like that actually, but I don't know how it plays out too much other than Deshaun Watson probably takes a big hit.
Yeah, and those guys with terrible offensive lines. Yeah, I mean, Kyler was not great last year.
I know. Yeah. I think I remember the thing that Scott tweeted when he was putting, or before the scoring was announced, was that like one quarterback dropped like 40 points. I wanted to say it was Jameis, but I don't think it was Jameis. But that's the type of guy we're talking about.
Yeah.
Sounds believable when you throw 30 interceptions and they're -4 points. But was it -4 last year? I don't know.
Man, yeah, 6 passing team. So
He
it
actually
seems
still
like
did fine.
Mm-hmm.
Drew Brees probably is a kind of a prototype quarterback to be real good here.
Yeah, he's going to have a premium.
Brees basically performs about as well per game as Mahomes did last year. So
On this scoring,
yeah.
I mean that makes sense.
So
I feel like
Brees
Lamar
is
Jackson too. He
that
probably
cover
doesn't
for me.
take a ton of sacks. He doesn't throw a lot of incompletions because he doesn't throw a lot of passes. And maybe like a Tannehill.
Yeah, I have Tannehill and Kirk Cousins as my two quarterbacks in the mock that I'm doing right now over on MFL. So I'm perfectly fine with those two grabbing a couple running backs, and I grabbed Ertz in that one as well. So
Yeah.
I think those guys are perfectly good in that format.
So let me ask you this. How does the tight end, I'm in FFPC, I'm in a couple of those, so I get how tight end premium helps. In Scott Fishbowl specifically, does it change much? Do you feel like people, do tight ends a lot, or is it not really it's only a half a point more. I don't know.
Last year,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say last year there was a pretty high premium on those elite ones. Kelsey, Kittle, and Ertz pretty much went in the first round. I would guess 80% of drafts in the back end of the first. Some people were double tapping on the turn type of thing, starting out with 2 tight ends. And then I think it depended on league. They all had a little bit of a premium. Sometimes there was like one guy that was just like, hey, I'm going to take 6 tight ends because I can
corner the market.
Start 4 of them. I don't know. Yeah, so I think it's a little bit more of a fade for me. B-Don, what's your feeling on it?
I do think that some people make a bigger deal out of it than others. There's definitely your tight end pushers out there. So it kind of depends on if one of those is in your league or not. That kind of marks how much you have to reach for them. Like I said, in the mock that I'm doing, I got Ertz. I got him at 306. I mean, that's not much different than where some people would take him in a standard league. So I think the adjustment is really going to be, tight ends that start with a K and with an E this year. And that's where the adjustment will be made for the most part. I think the bigger difference is kind of on the back end of tight ends where you see some of those middle guys jumping up because it kind of puts them on a more level playing ground with some of the, third and fourth receivers that are throwing out there. So people may roster more tight ends, than normal because they can definitely fit into your flex spot.
Right. You could start
and tight ends tend to pop. So when they go off, it's because they're a matchup problem that week. So they might get, a bunch of receptions. They might get 2 touchdowns on their 4 targets. Yeah. So there's a little bit of advantage on that. And then I think the first down tends to help them too because they're big. They work the middle of the field. They tend to be those drop-off valves that can get first downs. I know first downs are a little hit and miss as far as trying to predict them other than maybe the top guys, your elite receivers, your workhorse backs that are always going to get those grinding out carries. But I think tight end gets a slight boost because of that as well.
I like that point about tight ends by their nature. I mean, outside of the ones who command their offense like Kittle and Kelsey, but that they do tend to pop because it's a specific matchup situation. I like thinking of it that way, and that makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, good point there.
One other thing I'll throw at you as a new participant, Boof, ADHD Josh, he put together an amazing app last year over at Roto Grinders for the Scott Fishbowl, and it had real-time ADP data, and you could see the min-max through it was like 100 leagues last year.
That's amazing.
So it was really interesting dynamic that it added to it because everybody's looking at the same thing and seeing like whoa, this player, this is the latest he's been picked and he's still there. Or, you know, it's like it skews things kind of. You don't know who is weighing what, but it's
That
a
is
kind of
really cool, though. I like that a lot.
very interesting dynamic it added. Well, let's take a look at our mock drafts though. So you guys are both in a Scott Fishbowl mock. I am not right now, but let's start out by looking at let's say Boof's first. And Boof, you're drafted out of the 9 slot,
Yep.
and you started with a tight end, right?
Yeah, I did. I mean, we can just get right into strategy. I'm playing around with it. Obviously, it's a mock. But gosh, you know what happens is the 9 hole it's a little bit of no man's land because the top 5 running backs are gone. The top which ends at Kamara, Zeke. The top 2 quarterbacks obviously gone, and then you have 2 tight ends. You obviously have Michael Thomas and Devontae Adams, who are the clear top 2 wide receivers, in my opinion. And, you know, if I'm looking at that, I think it's just the nature of being in the 9 hole. I think I'm pretty confident that maybe one of the top 2 tight ends really is the play, because contrary to wide receivers, I could get one of the top 2 wide receivers, but there's so many wide receivers I love later, and there's not a lot of tight ends other than Jonnu, shout out.
Gross.
But that's kind of where I landed. So far, I've actually really liked how this team has come together, and we can talk about that more later. But I know, B-Don, you're also going to be in the back end of that first round, I think. So what do you think? I like just one of those 2 elite tight ends. I kind of like that at the back end.
Yeah, I'm picking out of the 10 spot right now. I'm thinking I'm probably going either quarterback or running back out of that spot. And not necessarily trying to predict what's going to happen in front of me, but we have a pretty good idea of what likely goes on in front of me. I doubt I get Mahomes or Jackson. They're probably going 2 or 3. So we're kind of looking at that next range of quarterback, which for me may be Drew Brees. I know that doesn't sound right to most people, but as we were kind of discussing, his scoring is ridiculous in this. And more likely than that, I'm probably just going to go with a running back. I'm going to take best available there, whether that's Mixon, whether that might be Dalvin, Chubb, Sanders if nobody else signs there. So that's probably what I'm looking at doing coming into the first round. Second round, I could see maybe grabbing one, but I doubt even at 10, if a tight end is there, he's probably not making it through the turn.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, no, probably not.
I'm surprised you're able to get Miles Sanders there at pick 19 in the second round. I love that. I took him in the Raspberry mock that we're doing right now at pick 10, I think I am. So.
Yeah, current status with nobody else there, it's kind of ridiculous that he falls to 19. But you also got to remember there's 3 or 4 quarterbacks, 2 tight ends, and actually more receivers went than I thought. Clyde Edwards-Helaire went right in front of him, which is kind of a joke to me. But you know,
yeah.
Anybody that follows me on Twitter, read that last article, kind of knows what my point is on Clyde. I just don't think his talent is what people are making, and I don't think he's getting the touches and reception specifically that people are putting on him. I think he can do very well in that offense. I thought he might be worth drafting at some point, but the hype has grabbed him, and he's just climbing way too fast. If I can get Miles after Clyde, I'll happily do that, even if they bring in somebody. I think that Miles is still probably going to be the guy. Although I'm probably dropping Miles a few spots once that happens as well. He's definitely dropping behind like Aaron Jones. He's dropping behind Chubb. I think I might have Aaron Jones above him already, actually. So he's probably dropping from like my number, top 10 to just outside the top 10 running back, maybe.
Yeah, well, you mentioned something. Good point, B-Don, that the fact that it's super flex pushes him down, and then the tight end premium as well. It's also, and this kind of eludes me at times, it's only half point PPR for running backs and wide receivers. I think it was full last year. Now it was 1.5 for tight ends, now that I think about it. So that does, he's gonna catch a lot of passes. He carries a little bit more of a premium in full PPR leagues like the Raz Bowl. I did find it interesting that you took Sanders over Nick Chubb. I know you're a big Nick Chubb fan, and you took him over Aaron Jones. Fell all the way to pick 32 in your draft. He almost made it back. Actually, he did make it back to you in the third, but you went with Ertz. So what were your thoughts on those two picks?
Yeah. Honestly, I was kind of panicking when I took Sanders. I forgot that this mock was going on. There was a big wait in front of me for a little while, and I just forgot about it. When I went back to go pick, I had very limited time, and I was like, I kind of want to share Miles Sanders and see how it looks. Looking back, I probably would have gone with Chubb. I do like him quite a bit, but anything that's PPR does tend to favor Sanders. And like I said, right now, currently drafting, there's nobody there. So that was my thinking. Jones is sharing, Chubb is sharing. Right now, Sanders isn't. I'll make that adjustment when it happens. The Eagles still haven't signed anybody. They've at least bluffed that they're not going to sign anybody. So I'm going to at least play it out right now.
Any other thoughts on this mock that B-Dun's doing, Boof?
No, except for just we talked about quarterbacks. It looks like compared to my mock, your quarterbacks were kind of sprinkled all throughout, whereas mine, first 3 rounds, then there's a big lull, and then round 7 or 6 and 7, they kind of started taking quarterbacks again. Yours are kind of evenly distributed a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, I love, especially looking at the scoring, taking like a Tannehill, 4th, 5th round. So I may rethink taking a quarterback in the 2nd round, which is kind of what I was going to do before. There's some nice guys a little bit later. I see you got Cousins, Tannehill. I like that. Ertz with the receptions, that's perfect. I mean, he may not score a ton of touchdowns or whatever, but he's gonna probably be their target leader. So I think he's a great value. I mean,
big first down guy as well.
Yeah, that's real nice.
It's going to be tough for you to pass on Kyler in the 2nd round if he's there, though, isn't it, Boof?
I think the way this is, I mean, really looking at that scoring a little bit more closely, I'm not sure he's a great pick. I mean, I love Kyler, trust me, but I think incompletions are probably going to be a continuous issue with him. And I like the scoring because it makes you you don't want to take guys time, because garbage time can get you points, but it can be a ton of incompletions. I mean, this guy's just chucking the ball. So I don't want to keep Tannehill, who's going to be in controlled games where he's not just slinging it around trying to get, desperation type stuff. I mean, those guys, interestingly enough, may get a bump on those boring games rather than guys where traditionally in DraftKings or something, you're just hoping for a ton of crappy garbage time stats and they can go 0 for 3 and convert on a 4th down and you're happy.
Yeah. I have Josh Allen so far down this format. It's ridiculous.
Oh boy. Yeah.
He is not the quarterback I want in this. I'm already predicting that the rushing is coming down this season. And if the rushing is coming down, I really don't want any piece of him in this particular format. I'm okay taking the upside shot in most leagues because it's quarterback. I'll go grab another one. But it'd be real tough in this format to commit to Josh Allen in that 3rd or maybe even 2nd round where he's probably going to go in some of these. But I will comment, Boof, you mentioned kind of how our drafts are very different in the quarterback. That is how Scott Fishbowl goes. Everybody has their own draft strategy. So take your guy when you want him, when you think the value is there. Don't try and predict when people are going to go because you have absolutely no idea.
Yeah, they're all so different. Every draft is it's wild how much variance there is in these things, which it's fun, but to a certain extent it makes it not so useful for us producing content based on it, because this league is so unlike any leagues that our listeners and readers are typically playing in, unless they happen to have been selected.
I'm really excited. I mean, it's such a unique, everything about it's so unique. But another point about this whole incompletion thing. I mean, -1, a whole point is a lot.
It's a ton
for one incompletion. And so just a shout out to one of my favorite stats, completion percentage over expected, CPOE. If you're not into that, I would highly suggest looking at quarterbacks who performed well. That's a very sticky stat, as they say in the stats world. It'll, kind of quarterbacks, that's something that's consistent throughout their career despite team situation and everything else. So I'd look at that probably as a good stat to identify maybe some gems.
I'm probably going to be in on Brady in this format, although I do see that he went very high in your draft, Booth.
And mine, I think, as well. He was like QB 8, second round.
He went lower in B-downs.
He did. I was one pick away from getting him.
I see.
Really wanted him there in the 4th round. If I could have gotten him, and then I might have been able. It might have looped all the way back, and I might have been able to get Kirk in the 5th rather than going Tannehill. So that would have been super sexy. But it is what it is. I think Brady's another one that gets a nice boost in this. I mean, I think it's pretty clear who gets knocked and who kind of moves up. Although I will say the penalties weren't as bad last year, but Jameis still did just fine with all of his warts. So if you just get raw numbers, you just get a ton of attempts, you can still kind of make it work. It's just kind of a week-by-week basis. And, the Scott Fish Bowl, unlike Raz Bowl or DWG, isn't best ball or better ball. You have to set your lineup. So it's not like you can come into the week and say, oh, I'm just going to, if I just draft 3 upside quarterbacks and just hope 2 of them don't blow up in that week, it'll be fine. Because you might play the one who throws, the 5 interceptions and has a sub 50% completion rate on the day, or whatever terribleness that it might come out of Josh Allen, whoever.
Yeah. Well, guys,
I don't mean to trash Josh Allen. I know I'm always a little harsh on him.
Well, I'll say in my mock, we're in the 8th round. I mean, just eyeballing it, there's at least, I think, 20 QBs off the board. And he got taken in the 3rd round. So never mind. I was going to say he wasn't even picked yet, but he did. Fantasy malpractice.
Always malpracticing. We're not going to have time to talk about the Raz Bowl. We're going to have to do a Raz Bowl mock segment next week. We'll have a full draft to look at then. But the time flew by again, guys. Always a pleasure talking to you. Congratulations to Boof on his new gig over at DFL, Dynasty League Football. He's going to be writing Devy and Dynasty content over there. Very happy for the Boof. Hopefully he takes his name over there and stops at this nonsense _Alfred stuff. B-Don, what are you working on? What can our listeners find you at? And what's up?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at RazBdon. Obviously writing over there at Razball. We're doing the podcast, you and I. I don't think we actually have a football show lined up for this week, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's not one that'll happen at some point. We might figure it out. I think we got a baseball show that you recorded earlier today coming out, so that'll be fun. I actually couldn't take part of that because I was doing that real work thing. I am writing up a baseball article on the strongest half seasons in the last few years among active players. For football wise, I'm still working on that deep wide receiver, but me in film, and I kind of go down rabbit holes. So I'm still working on that one, but I'm probably going to do another numbers piece. People seem to like that, and I love playing around on the play index over at Pro Football Reference. So I may go pull some more numbers from there and write something up numbers-wise, just to dispel some of those rumors out there.
Nice. And you can follow B-Don at RazBdon on Twitter. Boof, you working on anything right now?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna put pen to paper. I did a little thread recently about first downs, and actually it's relevant for Scott Fish Bowl, but first downs being kind of correlated with fantasy points in the year after. So you can look at first downs in one year correlated with fantasy points pretty well the next year. So it could uncover some some gems, and I did a little Twitter thread, but I'm gonna kind of make it more of a formal article. And also, yeah, like I said, relevant for the Scott Fish Bowl. Who's catching all these first downs, and maybe you want to target them or at least bump them up a little bit.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. And you can find the booth out there on Twitter at AL_FF_RED.
You got it the first time.
I'm at Donkey Teeth 87. Come check our stuff out on Razzball and sign up for the Razzball. Hey guys, it's been a blast. We got a minute left on the Zoom call, so let's wrap it up and have a great night.
You too.